Welcome to True News for Monday, May 22nd, 2017. I'm Rick Wiles. Our top story is the Seth Rich murder mystery. Seth Rich was a 27-year-old employee of the Democratic National Committee. He was fatally shot in the back in his Bloomingdale neighborhood of Washington, D.C. on July 10, 2016. He was reportedly speaking on his cell phone to his girlfriend, Kelsey Mulca, at the time of the murder. Washington, D.C. police investigators quickly concluded that the murder was the result of a botched robbery. The robbers, however, didn't steal anything from Mr. Rich. His father, Joel, told reporters, quote, "If it was a robbery, it failed because he still has his watch, he still has his money, he still has his credit cards, still had his phone. So it was a wasted effort, except we lost a life," end of quote. Apparently, there wasn't much of an official police investigation into the mysterious murder of the DNC employee who died in the heat of a presidential campaign during which tens of thousands of DNC emails were given to WikiLeaks. According to WND.com, the manager of the Washington, D.C. bar where Mr. Rich was last seen before he was shot said police investigators never questioned him or anybody else who worked at the bar. Furthermore, police officers never requested to see Lou's City Bar's closed-circuit surveillance camera video. The police also didn't request to see Mr. Rich's bar receipt from the night of the murder. Newsweek reported that the FBI is not investigating the Seth Rich murder. You see, the FBI, U.S. intelligence agencies, the news media, and Senators Charles Schumer, John McCain, and Lindsey Graham are too busy pushing the Putin hacked the U.S. election false narrative to have enough time to investigate an actual murder of a man who worked for the Clinton political machine. Although the FBI and Washington police are refusing to investigate the Seth murder, a former District of Columbia homicide detective is investigating the crime. Mr. Rod Wheeler is a private investigator who is working on the case on behalf of a unnamed third party. He recently told a local Fox TV affiliate that a source in the Washington, D.C. Police Department privately told him that he was ordered to stand down, don't investigate the murder, and don't share information with anybody. The latest buzz on the street came from the internet hacker Kim.com. He said on Saturday that he was part of an operation that involved Seth Rich to transfer DNC emails to WikiLeaks. Kim.com tweeted on Saturday, quote, "If Congress includes Seth Rich case in their Russia probe, I'll give written testimony with evidence that Seth Rich was WikiLeaks source," end of quote. Talk show host Sean Hannity quickly responded on Twitter by asking Kim.com, quote, "You are the evidence? Can you explain that in more detail?" End of quote. Kim.com responded to Sean Hannity's question with two tweets, quote, "I knew Seth Rich. I know he was the WikiLeaks source. I was involved." And then a second tweet that said, quote, "I'm meeting my legal team on Monday. I will issue a statement about Seth Rich on Tuesday. Please be patient. This needs to be done properly," end of quote. Meanwhile, the Gateway Pundit reported that an anonymous person who works in the Washington area alleged on 4chan's subgroup that high-ranking and former Democratic Party officials in Washington are terrified that somebody may uncover the truth about Seth Rich's death. The anonymous post released Saturday said, quote, "I work in D.C. I know for certain that Seth Rich case has scared the blank out of certain high-ranking current and former Democratic Party officials. This is the reason why they have backed away from impeachment talk. They know the smoking gun is out there, and they're terrified you will find it, because when you do, it will bring the entire DNC along with a couple of very big-name politicians. It appears that certain DNC thugs were not thorough enough when it came time to cover their tracks." Podesta saying he wanted to, quote, "make an example of the leader," unquote, is a huge smoking gun. In a follow-up post, the same anonymous person wrote, quote, "The behavior is near open panic. To even mention this name in D.C. circles will bring you under automatic scrutiny. To even admit that you have knowledge of this story puts you in immediate danger. If there was no smoke, there would be no fire. I have never, in my 20 years of working in D.C., seen such a panicked reaction from anyone. I have strong reason to believe that the smoking gun in this case is out of the hands of the conspirators and will be discovered. I know for certain that Podesta is deeply concerned. He's been receiving anonymous calls and emails from people saying they know the truth. Same with Hillary," end of quote. Republican Party political operative Roger Stone recently appeared on the Genesis Communication Network's Stone Cold Truth radio program. Here's a soundbite of his comments regarding the Seth Rich murder mystery.
No, you have a number of interesting factors here. First of all, there's the change in the story of Seth Rich's parents. Initially, they themselves denied that this was a robbery. Now, suddenly, they're being represented by a crisis communications consultant paid for by the Democratic National Committee. To say the least, that is suspicious. You have the private detective who has come forward and said that his sources in the D.C. Metropolitan Police tell him that the laptop, which was utilized by Mr. Rich, shows multiple contacts with WikiLeaks. You have Fox now reporting that over 40,000 documents were sent from Rich to WikiLeaks. When I raised this with Michael Isikoff in an interview on Yahoo.com, Yahoo News, he acted as if I were a conspiracy theorist. Actually, I would say anyone who doesn't suspect a political assassination, a murder with political motive, is painfully naive. The question is really why the president has not ordered the FBI to take over the investigation from the D.C. Metropolitan Police. The truth is the president controls both entities, although he controls the D.C. Metropolitan Police indirectly, perhaps. And it's time for a real investigation. There's no doubt in my mind, if you look at it, the British diplomat, Craig Murray has said that Rich was his contact and that Rich passed off documents to him in a floppy disk form that were handed off in a parking lot near American University. There's no question in my mind that this guy was executed because he was blowing the whistle on Hillary Clinton and Deborah Wasserman Schultz and their efforts to steal the nomination from Bernie.
Wow. As Roger Stone on Cold Stone Truth. Edward, what else do we know about this controversy involving the Seth Rich murder?
Well, as you've already mentioned, we're waiting actually right now for Kim.com to announce if he'll be moving forward with presenting evidence to Congress and even possibly announcing it on the Sean Hannity show as of today. Earlier over the weekend, Kim.com tweeted from his account that he'd be meeting with his lawyers and to discuss, again, a legal strategy moving forward with this. But as you mentioned at the beginning, this is a huge smoking gun because it completely debunks the Russia hacked the election narrative.
Doc, what do you think the chances are that John McCain and Lindsey Graham are going to demand that Kim.com come forth to the U.S. Senate and give testimony?
About the same amount of chances that they're going to find the real killer of Vince Foster from July 1993.
You got it. It's just another Clinton murder that went uninvestigated and no justice done. So we had Seth Rich, who was murdered sometime there in early July. And then in early August, I think it was August 2nd, a second man mysteriously died. He was connected to the Democratic National Committee, Sean Lucas.
Right.
He served legal papers to the Democratic National Committee in a fraud class action lawsuit on behalf of the Bernie Sanders supporters.
Right.
He alleged that the Democratic National Committee colluded with Hillary Clinton to rig the Democratic primaries in favor of Hillary Clinton and to make sure that Bernie Sanders was defeated. And so he served papers on the Democratic National Committee for a lawsuit, and Mr. Lucas was found unresponsive on his bathroom floor. Paramedics responded to his girlfriend's 911 call, found no signs of life. And so another person died. And then we had John Ash,
right,
the United Nations official. And he supposedly was going to testify to a grand jury about money that was transferred from the Clinton Foundation to pay off certain people. And the day before his testimony, he had an accident in his home while he was exercising. The dumbbell fell on his neck and broke his neck, and he never made it to the grand jury. Imagine that.
Yeah, just coincidence.
But if we bring this up, we're conspiracy theorists. But you know what this tells me? Because first of all, it's very difficult. If you go into Google News or any of the news sources and search, there's almost no news about Seth Rich other than left-wing articles saying that there are conspiracy theories about Seth Rich.
You know, Kim.com, he's coming forward right now. First of all, I believe he's going to be a key in actually solving Seth Rich's case. And I think there's two different motives. Tell me what you think, Rick. One of his motives is simply just to destroy Hillary Clinton because of what Hillary Clinton did to him. But also, I believe that maybe he feels partly responsible for Seth Rich's death. You know, he tweeted, like you said, he was actually involved in this. Okay, so he was involved in the leaks that helped destroy Hillary Clinton. Okay, now his objective is very clear, Kim.com, because he tweeted on his Twitter a while ago that he says, Democrats destroyed my business, attacked my family, stole my assets in a pay-for-play strike for the MPAA, the Motion Picture of Associations of America. Now, and then he said, counter-strike, Trump presidency, check. So this was an attempt to get back at Hillary Clinton. I wouldn't be surprised if, like I said, Kim.com feels partly responsible for Seth Rich's death because maybe he leaked some of the information to Seth Rich. Because back in 2014, Kim.com actually hinted at coming hacks against Hillary Clinton in 2014. He took to his Twitter and said, I'm not a pirate. I'm not a fugitive. I'm not a flight risk. I'm your internet freedom fighter and Hillary's worst nightmare in 2016. He said this in 2014.
Wow, that put him on the radar screen for the Clintonistas. Right in their sights. You start talking like that about the Clintons, and your life is going to have your lifespan is going to be shortened.
Yeah, you've seen that evidence from the past. But I'm still not convinced that Kim.com, who I follow on Twitter quite a bit, he has a lot of interesting things to comment about and say. I'm still waiting for that evidence, Kim. Bring it out. If you got it, let's see it. We want to see it. We want to hear it. Don't just talk about it.
One of those emails that were released to the public during the campaign by WikiLeaks came from John Podesta. It was sent on February 22nd, 2015. Podesta said, quote, I'm definitely for making an example of a suspected leaker, whether or not we have any real basis for it, end of quote. So Podesta said, we're going to make an example of a leaker, whether we have evidence for it or not.
Yeah.
What does that mean? I mean, we have a guy, Seth Rich, who potentially was the leaker, and he's dead. Bullet holes in the back.
Well, they were ready to dump somebody off the boat without evidence.
That's
according
right.
to that email. But without evidence at all.
When it comes to the criminal aspect of this is real motivation. This qualifies as real motivation. Before, if it was a nebulous entity like the Russian government or a random hacker in Eastern Europe, that there is no connection here. But this official worked inside the DNC, previously worked for one of the senior advisors for Bill Clinton at a polling company prior to his job. And we have an email. We have an email that hasn't been questioned. This is an official email from John Podesta regarding leakers.
Where's the FBI? Why hasn't the FBI opened up an investigation to the murder of Seth Rich. Why is the FBI spent all this time allegedly? Well, we know they covered up Hillary Clinton's crimes, and now they're supposedly investigating General Flynn and President Trump. But why hasn't the FBI investigated the death of Seth Rich? Right. Why didn't anybody get the police? Why didn't the police go to the bar, the last place he was seen, and interview the bartender and the people who were in the bar? Why didn't they get the surveillance camera video? Where's the surveillance camera video from the sidewalks from the neighborhood? I've heard rumors that they malfunctioned that night. I don't know. I haven't verified that. But where's the video? Did the police request it?
Or we're depending upon the D.C. Metro Police in this, and we've seen that.
This is
before.
the same people that investigated Vince Foster's death.
So
there's a cover up. It's plain and simple. They've covered up a murder.
And any other investigation that you would look into, you'd start after you've collected the evidence. You'd start with motive, and they refuse to even consider that there might be a political motive to Seth Rich's death. They refuse to even own up to that. That it could be. It has to be.
So what have we heard since the election? Putin hacked the election. Putin hacked the election. Putin hacked the election.
With no evidence.
With no evidence at all.
But Seth Rich is dead, and there is evidence.
That's right. I think the Putin hacked the election false narrative is the smokescreen to cover up the murder of Seth Rich.
Their credibility's on trial right now.
Yeah, what happens to all the intelligence communities whenever we find out that it was all a lie?
Oh, you mean the 17 intelligence agencies that concluded that Russia hacked the election? All 17 of them, whatever they are? Well, their credibility's shot if evidence comes out that Seth Rich was murdered by somebody in the Democratic Party. Their credibility's on the line. It's done. It's finished because they have told the entire world Putin hacked the election. And they did not investigate the Seth Rich murder. The reason the FBI didn't investigate it is because the FBI is in the business of covering up crimes. If the crime is committed by a person who has enough power and money in this country.
And remember, the FBI has never investigated the DNC's emails yet that they were hacked into. Remember that?
They never. That's right, Doc. They never even examined the Democratic National Committee servers.
That's right, because if they did, they would find out that Seth Rich had sent those emails to WikiLeaks.
How do they know that Putin hacked the election?
They're relying solely on what is now a discredited IT company called CrowdStrike and their opinion, their quote-unquote expert opinion, that they've looked through the server and they've contracted the FBI the credible information.
But the FBI never itself seized the servers and examined the servers.
No.
But they're telling the whole world that the Russians hacked the election, whatever that means.
Right.
How did the Russians hack the election? What does that mean, hacked the election? Now, somebody inside the Democratic National Committee gave those emails to WikiLeaks, and that person was murdered. It's as simple as that. The man is dead, and there's a cover-up. And it appears that the family, the Democratic National Committee, the Democratic Party establishment is paying for a Democratic Party public relations operative to speak for the family.
Yes, you're speaking about Brad Bauman. Bauman has been known as a crisis manager, and he's been speaking on behalf of the family, saying that they're not happy with these leaks. This is something that was put out by Bauman to Business Insider following this past weekend. He said, "It's sad but unsurprising that a group of media outlets who have repeatedly lied to the American people would try and manipulate the legacy of a murder victim in order to forward their own political agenda. I think there's a special place in bleep for people like that," unquote.
Now, the Rich family, the parents have not said anything since the murder, since the father said nothing was taken. There was no robbery. Nothing was stolen. The Democratic Party hierarchy has made sure that the family has been sequestered. And, I can only imagine how this worked, where a Democratic official or maybe a delegation went to the Rich family. I'm just speculating. They went to the family and said, we're so sorry about what happened to your son, but these right-wing conspiracy theorists are trying to use your son's tragic death to create false fake news to hurt Hillary Clinton. And what we would like to do is provide the family with professional public relations services
to combat fake news.
To combat the fake news that's damaging your son's memory. And none of us want your son's memory to be damaged. Do you, Mr. and Mrs. Rich? Of course you don't. But these right-wing conspiracy theorists are going to continue to tell the world your son was murdered for political reasons when we know that it was a robbery, even though nothing was taken. It was that the robbers didn't know how to rob. They just knew how to shoot. And so we're here on behalf of the Democratic National Committee to provide the Rich family with professional public relations services. And you'll never have to go out and face those crazy right-wing radio and internet hosts that's alt-right gang, these fake news people that are telling everybody your son was murdered. And that's the way this operates.
Right.
And the family said, you're right. We don't want to face it. We're just going to be quiet. And so they played on their emotions. These people are professional propagandists, and they know how to manage a public relations crisis. They've done this for decades. Whenever a body shows up, they know how to take care of the situation. Just like Judge Scalia's family said, no, we don't want to talk about the judge's death. Well, what did the judge tell somebody that he knew that Obama was spying on the Supreme Court?
Right.
That he said it numerous times in private conversations that he knew the NSA was spying on the Supreme Court justices? Do you think maybe the judge was lured to Texas where he was murdered? Oh, he just happened to have a pillowcase wrapped around his face and he suffocated. And no paramedics were called. Ambulance was called. The coroner wasn't called.
Took him straight to the funeral home.
They took him directly to the funeral. Just happened to be a Supreme Court justice. How did they get away with that? Well, it's called murder. Okay, when you got friends in high places, you can murder people and get away with it. And then they turn around, they call Putin a murderous thug. These are the most murderous thugs the world has seen in the last 100 years. They've gotten away with so much of it.